We've saw a little bit of a bounce back today. Stock futures are up. It's kind of unclear what's going to happen, but trust has been lost, and that's really what worries me. I think that investors may, say, okay, things could get finessed in the next couple of weeks, but what about 3 months from now? What about 6 months from now? What I hear from investors across the board is folks going to short-term assets, folks going to safety havens. There's also, I think, pain in the markets that we haven't seen yet. And let me point out something that is undercovered, which is that people were selling off gold and they were selling off treasuries. They don't generally sell things like that in a panic. That means that they're trying to cover losses and stem blood flow from other problems that we don't see yet in the market. We are at the very early days of this. And so to take it lightly, to say, oh, everybody's going to come in line and things are going to be fine, very, very naive. Not to mention what China's going to do, which we can get to.
Yeah, John, what do you say to that?
So I think that what we're seeing is countries from all around the globe, except for China, saying, we want to make a deal. We do not want these tariffs. What Trump is saying, and he's learned his lesson from the first time he was in office, where China made a lot of promises and didn't follow through on them. There was also a lot of behind-the-scenes deals that they tried to do with Europe, and Europe basically said, yes, we will do whatever you want, and then never did anything. So what I think the message right there to Israel was, you need to actually do it. We're not going to reduce your tariff based on your promise. We're going to do it when we see the trade surplus that you run against us, the United States trade deficit, come down, then your tariffs will come down.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people disagree that trade deficits are inherently bad. It's kind of like not great economics to assume that's the case, but that's neither here nor there, I guess.
A couple of things. First of all, what we saw there with Netanyahu is classic Trump quid pro quo, the transactional president. He immediately conflated the tariff issue with the $4 billion in aid that the US gives. And we've seen that again and again and again with Europe. We've seen it across the globe. What are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
That's always the answer. Never mind long-standing, Canada relations, whatever. So that's the first thing. It's a transactional quid pro quo arrangement. But Peter Navarro, and it's not often I'd ever agree with Peter Navarro, but he summed it up. You can take your tariff offer right down to zero, and it won't make a darn bit.
As several countries have.
And it won't make any difference because
Israel.
the real issue is non-tariff barriers. If you go down to zero on your nominal, the US exports still can't get in, and the uncertainty means people still won't be investing over here.
But when you start to talk about non-tariff barriers, you get into the bigger topic of the way the whole global trading system works. And this is my real problem with what's happening right now. I think we had a golden opportunity. I think Trump had a golden opportunity to come out and say, we're going to build on what I did in my first administration. We are going to really rejigger things. China has come into the system. It's run in a completely different way than the countries, European and American, the countries that built the global trading system. We need to change this. Instead, he's thrown the entire chessboard up. You can't do it alone. There's horse trading going on, not just between the U.S. and other countries, but China and Europe and all the other countries around the world that are thinking, we can't trust this guy. Yeah. That's not a way to get to a new system.
The other thing that's happening is that, some of the people in Trump's corner, the billionaires who they make money for a living, they are starting to freak out. And principal among them is Bill Ackman. I actually want to play Bill Ackman from a couple months ago, back in December, when he was singing a very, very different tune. Listen to this.
We're stepping into, I would say, the most pro-growth, pro-business, pro-American administration I've perhaps seen in my adult lifetime. President Trump will do nothing that interferes with the success of the country, the success of the economy. And I think he's going to be very thoughtful about tariffs.
You do?
I think it's a very powerful tool that can be used to level the playing field.
Okay, so now here we are today. He says, on April 9th, if we launch an economic nuclear war on every country in the world, business investment will grind to a halt, consumers will close their wallets and their pocketbooks, and we will severely damage our reputation with the rest of the world. It will take years to potentially rehabilitate it. He talks about, as Rana was saying, business is a confidence game, and that confidence has been shattered. These are people who know what they're talking about, and they like Donald Trump. They just think that this is a catastrophic mistake.
Yeah, I like Bill Ackman, by the way, and think he's an important voice. But he's not the only voice. And, you know, the president's getting a lot of advice from a lot of different people. But what I tend to just listen to the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, who was on television late this afternoon talking about now there's 70-plus countries that are calling up, wanting to discuss how we're going to deal with them in the future. And what I really hope that they wind up doing with those 70-plus countries, and it'll probably be more by tomorrow, is this. Like, listen, you need to understand, we're trying to do something different here. We think we've been taken advantage of, and we're responding to the working class of this country. If you will help us, if you will understand that we can have a fairer system here that's fair to the United States, we can align ourselves against the true enemy, which is China. And if you want to get in bed with China and think they're a trustworthy partner, that is a complete, ridiculous, stupid, terrible idea. Stick with us, be fair to us, and stick with us, and we'll align ourselves against China because they cannot be trusted.
Why should anybody want to go down that road when the US has just kicked them in the groin, damaged their own domestic economies in their various countries, and did all this without serious warning? The reason all these billionaires have gone against the administration is because of the extreme nature. None of them expected this massive tariff.
And these are not reciprocal in any way. These tariffs are, frankly, indiscriminate, based on a formula that nobody understands and doesn't
Just
make
to answer
any
Richard,
economic sense.
Yeah.
There was warning. It was called Donald Trump talking out loud for the last 40 years and in his campaign. That's number one. Number two.
But Scott, he never said that he was going to slap 46% tariffs on these countries. No. He actually campaigned. Let me give this part to you. He campaigned on tariffs, yes, but he campaigned on across the board 20% tariffs, which Wall Street at the time thought was kind of extreme, but maybe he won't do it. He didn't campaign on a formula that I don't know, some intern at the National Economic Council made up.
But here's...
And then they said because he's being generous, they're just going to randomly divide it in half.
It's an interesting point, though.
And then make that a number.
It's an interesting point what you're saying about we should have taken him at his word. Maybe we should have taken him at his word. I mean, I have long thought that these billionaires were being pretty darn naive, thinking that all they were going to get was tax cuts and deregulation, and maybe a little tweak here and there. And, you know, Donald Trump is an unpredictable guy. You know, we did not know how this was going to go. There was a good chance it was going to go badly. And probably if you'd been listening to him for 40 years, you would have surmised that.